You might think you know me, but the truth is, until a few months ago, I did not even know myself. At 71, I thought I had lived a whole life only to discover that my ending was actually a beginning. And it all started with a phone call. My daughter, Catherine's voice on the other end of the line was cold, almost mechanical, as if she were reading a script I did not know. She had just sold my beach house and my car, and just like that, with a simple goodbye, she discarded me. She abandoned me, left me with nothing, or so she thought. But before we continue, make sure you are subscribed to the Grandma's Revenge Tales channel and write in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love to know how far our stories are reaching. My name is Eleanor Vance. I am 71 years old, and until that moment, I thought I knew my daughter. My husband Robert had passed away 6 months earlier. He went in a sudden heart attack while we were having breakfast exactly as we did every morning for 45 years. That morning, he served me coffee with cream and toast, kissed me on the forehead, and said, "Good morning, my love." Those were his last words. Since then, Catherine had been more present in my life, or so I thought. She came to visit me 3 times a week, helped me with the funeral arrangements, and accompanied me to the supermarket. She even suggested I go to the doctor for a general checkup. "Mom, you need to take care of yourself more now that you are alone," she said with that smile I believed was one of love. But now I understand it was out of convenience. The money from my mourning, what she thought was mine, was the only reason for her closeness. I was in the doctor's waiting room when my phone rang. Her voice was strange, almost cold. "Mom, tomorrow we are going on a trip to Europe. I already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Goodbye." And she hung up just like that suddenly. 45 years raising her, sacrificing myself for her, and she discarded me like trash. The beach house had been our sanctuary for years. Robert and I bought it when Catherine was 15 with a lot of work and sacrifice. Every summer we went there building memories, celebrating birthdays and Christmases. Catherine brought her boyfriends, and later her husband Edward. I cooked for everyone, cleaned, and did the laundry. It was our family tradition. I never thought she would see it only as money, and the car, that old Ford truck that Robert took care of as if it were a son. He washed it every Sunday, changed the oil religiously, and always parked it in the same spot under the shade of the tree. Catherine knew what that truck meant to me. It was the last thing I had left of him. His scent still floated on the seats. When she hung up, I stayed there in that uncomfortable green plastic chair surrounded by other sick people, and for the first time in months, I did not cry. Something strange happened inside me, a calm I had not felt since Robert's death, because in that moment I remembered something I had completely forgotten: Robert's secret. 3 days before dying, Robert had handed me a manila envelope. "Eleanor put this in your dresser drawer. If something happens to me, open it after a while, but only when you feel ready." I put it away without thinking much. After the funeral, with so much pain and so many arrangements, I simply forgot about it. But there it was, waiting for me at home. The nurse called me to enter the office. The doctor examined me and said I was in good health for my age, that I just needed to rest more and eat better. I nodded and smiled, but my mind was elsewhere. I was thinking about that envelope, about the coldness in Catherine's voice, and how Edward, her husband, was probably behind all this. He never liked me. He always saw me as a nuisance. I left the office and walked slowly to the bus stop. I no longer had a car, according to Catherine, but while I waited, I could not help but smile. There was something poetic in all this. My daughter thought she had left me with nothing. But what she did not know was that Robert, my dear Robert, was always a man who planned ahead. The bus arrived and I sat near the window. I watched the city pass by, the houses, the shops, the people rushing everywhere, everyone with their own tragedies, their own secrets. I also had mine, and I was about to discover them. When I got home, I went straight to my room. I opened the dresser drawer, and there was the manila envelope exactly where I had left it. My hands trembled slightly as I took it. I could feel there were several documents inside. Robert had written my name on the front with his neat handwriting. I sat on the bed we had shared for so many years and took a deep breath. It was starting to get dark outside, and the house was filling with those familiar shadows that no longer scared me. I opened the envelope slowly as if I were unpacking a birthday gift. What I found inside would change everything. What I found in that envelope left me breathless. There were legal documents, deeds, bank certificates, and a handwritten letter from Robert. My eyes filled with tears as I read his familiar handwriting. My dear Eleanor, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Forgive me for not telling you everything while I was alive, but I wanted to protect you from worries. Over the years, I invested our savings in properties and businesses. We do not just have the beach house. We have 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Catherine and Edward live. We also have shares in 3 companies that are worth more than you can imagine. You are rich, my love. You were always rich. But now, you are also rich on paper. My hands trembled as I looked at the documents. There were deeds to houses in different neighborhoods of the city, a condo downtown, a small motel on the coast, and in fact, the 20-story apartment building where my daughter lived. Robert had been the silent owner for 10 years, but had put everything in the name of a company I did not know. And according to the papers, I was the sole heir of that company. There were also bank account statements I never knew existed, with numbers that seemed unreal. Robert had been a bus driver for 40 years, but apparently he had also been a very astute investor. Every penny we saved, every sacrifice we made, he had multiplied in silence, and I never knew anything. In the letter, Robert explained that he had kept everything secret because he did not want me to worry about money or for Catherine to know about our true financial situation. You know, our daughter Eleanor, if she knew we had so much money, her attitude would change. I want her to love us for who we are not, for what we have. What irony. Our daughter had left us thinking we had nothing when in reality we had everything. That night, I could not sleep. I walked through the house touching the old furniture and the knickknacks Catherine always criticized for being old-fashioned. I looked at the family photos on the wall, especially that one where she was 5 years old sitting on Robert's lap and laughing. Where did that sweet girl go? When did she become so cold, so calculating? The next day, very early in the morning, the phone rang. It was Catherine again. Her voice sounded different, softer, but I had already learned to distrust those changes in tone. "Mom, how are you? I wanted to tell you that we already transferred the money for the house and the car. We deposited your share in your account. It is not much, but it will help you live for a few months while you look for something smaller." "My share?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "Yes, Mom. Obviously, we were not going to leave you with nothing. We gave you 30%. It is fair, right? We need the money for our investment in Europe. Edward has an amazing business opportunity there. 30% of my own things. How generous, I understand, honey. And when are you leaving?" "We are leaving in the afternoon. Our suitcases are already ready. We will be away for at least 6 months. Maybe more if the business goes well. But do not worry, Mom. When we come back, we will help you find a small apartment. Something that fits your needs, fits my needs, as if she knew what my needs were. It is okay, Catherine. Have a good trip." "Oh, Mom, I knew you would understand. You have always been so understanding. We love you so much." And she hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, and for the first time in months, I laughed. I laughed like I had not done since Robert died. The situation was so absurd. It was comical. My daughter had robbed me. She had kicked me out of my own house. She had spoken to me with unbearable condescension. And all to finance a European adventure that would probably be a disaster. But what bothered me most was not the money. It was the ease with which she had discarded me. 45 years of my life dedicated to her of sacrifice, of unconditional love, and she had erased me from her life with a 2-minute phone call. That was what really hurt. I checked my bank account online. Indeed, they had deposited an amount that probably seemed generous to them, but to me it was a mockery. They had sold the beach house for much less than it was worth, probably because they needed the money fast and they had sold Robert's truck for a pittance. That afternoon from my window, I watched Catherine and Edward load their suitcases into a taxi. He was carrying 2 huge suitcases. She had a very expensive-looking handbag. I watched them laugh, kiss, and make plans. They looked like 2 teenagers excited about an adventure. They never looked toward my window. They never said goodbye. When the taxi left, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea and Robert's documents scattered on the table. I had to make some decisions. I could call a lawyer, recover my properties, and have back everything they had taken from me. But something told me there was a better way to handle this, a more educational way. I called Mr. Reynolds, the lawyer who had taken care of Robert's business. He had been at the funeral, had given me his condolences, and had told me to call him if I needed anything. Well, now I needed him. "Mrs. Vance, good to hear from you." "How are you?" "I am fine, Mr. Reynolds. I need to see you urgently. I found some documents of Robert's that I do not understand very well. Sure you can come to my office tomorrow morning. I will be there." That night, for the first time in months, I slept deeply. I dreamed of Robert. He was sitting in his favorite armchair reading the newspaper exactly like every morning. And when he saw me, he smiled and said, "It was about time, my love. It was about time you defended yourself." I woke up with a strange feeling. It was not exactly happiness, but neither was it the sadness I had felt for so many months. It was something like determination. For the first time since Robert's death, I had a clear purpose. I was going to take back what was mine, but not in the way Catherine expected. The next morning, I dressed more carefully than usual. I put on my burgundy dress, the one Robert always said made me look elegant. I fixed my hair and put on light makeup. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I had not seen in a long time. I saw a strong woman, Mr. Reynolds' office was downtown. It was an old building, but elegant, with marble floors and large windows. He greeted me with a warm smile, but when I showed him the documents, his expression changed completely. "Mrs. Vance, this is much more than I imagined. Robert was a very astute man. You see, according to these papers you are the owner of. I know Mr. Reynolds, I already reviewed them. What I need to know is what I can do legally." Mr. Reynolds explained that everything was in order, that the documents were legitimate, and that I was the legal owner of all those properties. He also confirmed something I already suspected. The sale of the beach house was illegal because Catherine did not have the right to sell it. "We can recover the house immediately, Mrs. Vance, and we can also proceed with legal action against your daughter for fraud." "No, Mr. Reynolds, I do not want to proceed with legal action. I want to do it another way. I want everything to remain secret for now. Can you help me?" He looked at me with curiosity but nodded. "Sure, you are my client. What do you need?" "I need you to recover the beach house quietly. Do whatever is necessary to void that fraudulent sale. And I need you to help me get real control of all my properties, especially the building where my daughter lives. I understand. It will be a process that will take a few weeks, but it is completely viable." "Perfect. And Mr. Reynolds, I need no one to know that I am behind all this, at least for now." When I left his office, I felt as if I had woken up from a very long dream. I walked through the streets of downtown, watching the people, the buildings, the life that continued normally. But for me, everything had changed. I had a plan. The following weeks were the strangest of my life. Officially, I was a poor widow who had been abandoned by her daughter, but in secret, I was a rich woman quietly orchestrating the recovery of my assets. Mr. Reynolds worked efficiently, and every few days he called me with updates on the progress of the legal proceedings. I decided to stay in my house for now. It was mine, after all, even though Catherine probably expected me to move into a single room. Every morning, I woke up, ate breakfast at the same table where Robert and I had shared so many years, and then went out for a walk around the neighborhood. Neighbors greeted me with that mix of pity and curiosity they reserved for recent widows. Audrey, my neighbor of a lifetime, approached me one afternoon while I was watering the plants in front of the house. Eleanor, dear, is it true that Catherine went to Europe and left you completely alone? Yes, Audrey. She went with Edward. They have business plans over there. And how are you going to live, dear? We all know Robert did not leave much money. If you only knew, I thought. Do not worry, Audrey, I will be fine. Do you need anything? I can bring you some food, help you with groceries. You are very kind, but I am fine, really. Audrey looked at me with that expression I knew well. It was the same look I had received after the funeral. Compassion mixed with a little relief that it was not her tragedy. Well, you know where to find me if you need anything. These conversations repeated constantly. The butcher, the baker, the lady at the corner store. Everyone spoke to me with that soft tone they use with the unfortunate. And I nodded, smiled, and thanked them for their concern. But inside, a part of me enjoyed this performance. It was like living a double life. Mr. Reynolds called me on a Wednesday morning. Mrs. Vance, I have good news. I managed to annul the sale of the beach house. The buyers did not know the sale was fraudulent, so they received their money back without problems. The house is yours again. Excellent, Mr. Reynolds. And the building where Catherine lives, that one is more complicated. Technically, you were always the owner through the company, but we need to make some administrative changes so that you have direct control. That should take about 2 more weeks. Perfect. Keep me informed. After hanging up, I sat in the kitchen with my coffee and thought about Catherine. She had been in Europe for 3 weeks, and I had heard nothing from her. No calls, no messages, not even a postcard. To her, I had ceased to exist the moment she got the money she needed, but I knew that was going to change soon. I decided to visit the beach house. I took the bus to the coast, the same route Robert and I had taken hundreds of times. The house was exactly as I remembered, small, painted cream with a porch facing the ocean. The new owners had put some potted plants on the stairs, but other than that, everything was the same. I sat on the sidewalk across the street and looked at it for an hour. I remembered the summer afternoons when Catherine was little, running on the beach and building sandcastles. Robert grilling fish while I made salads in the kitchen. Catherine bringing friends, then boyfriends, then Edward. All those happy moments that she had reduced to a simple business transaction. An older gentleman came out of the house and saw me sitting there. He approached me with curiosity. "Ma'am, are you okay?" "Yes, thank you. I am just remembering. I knew the former owners. Yes, I knew them very well. What a shame what happened. We were told the older lady was very sick and needed to sell fast. We thought it was a great deal, but it turned out the sale was not legal. We had to return the house. Did you know them personally?" "No. We did everything through intermediaries, but we were told the daughter was taking care of everything because the mother could not. What a sad situation. If you knew how truly sad it was, I thought. Well, I am glad you did not lose your money." "Lose? Yes, luckily, everything worked out well. Although now we have to look for another house. We liked this one a lot. I left there with a heavy heart. It was not just the money that hurt. It was the ease with which Catherine had lied about me. She had invented a story about my illness. She had used my alleged vulnerability to justify her actions. To her, I was not a person with feelings, but an obstacle that had to be removed. That night, I called Mr. Reynolds again. "Mr. Reynolds, I need you to help me with one more thing. I want to recover Robert's truck, too. That will be more difficult, Mrs. Vance. The truck was in his name, but your daughter had a power of attorney that allowed her to sell it. How is that possible? Apparently you signed that power of attorney a few months ago after your husband's death. Do you not remember?" There it was, the moment Catherine had started planning all this. I vaguely remembered signing some papers she had brought me, telling me they were to facilitate the funeral arrangements and the inheritance. I had been so confused by grief that I signed without reading. How naive I had been. "I understand, Mr. Reynolds. Is there any way to recover it? We can try, but it will be more complicated. We would have to prove that you signed that power of attorney under deception or duress. Let's do it. I want back everything they took from me." In the next few weeks, I developed a strange routine. In the morning, I was the poor widow everyone knew. I went out to buy necessities, chatted with neighbors, and kept up appearances. But in the afternoon, I became a businesswoman. I studied Robert's documents, talked to Mr. Reynolds, and planned my next move. I learned things about finance I never thought I would need to know. I discovered that Robert had been much more astute than I thought. Each of his investments had been carefully calculated. The building where Catherine lived, for example, was not only lucrative with rent, it was in an area that was appreciating rapidly. I also discovered that Edward Catherine's husband had a lot of debts. He had taken out loans using the apartment where they lived as collateral, without knowing he was not the real owner. When the banks found that out, he would be in serious trouble. Mr. Reynolds called me on a Friday with important news. "Mrs. Vance, we have finished all the paperwork. You now have total control of all your properties." I also managed to recover Robert's truck. The buyer turned out to be an acquaintance of mine, and when I explained the situation, he agreed to return it in exchange for a small compensation. "Excellent work, Mr. Reynolds. Now I need you to help me with one more thing. I want you to send a letter to my daughter." "What kind of letter?" "An eviction notice." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Mrs. Vance, are you sure you want to do this? After all, she is your daughter." "Completely sure. She decided I was not important in her life. Now she is going to discover how important I really am. I understand. Do you want me to send it to Europe?" "No, I want you to deliver it when she returns. I have a feeling it will be very soon. I was not wrong." That same afternoon, Audrey came running to my house with fresh news from the neighborhood. "Eleanor, did you know Edward has problems with the bank? My brother-in-law, who works there, told me they are investigating some loans he made using the apartment where they live as collateral. But it turned out the apartment is not his." "Really?" "Yes. And it seems Catherine knew nothing. They are saying she is going to have to return from Europe to solve this mess. What a complicated situation." "Yes. And the worst part is it seems Edward lied to her about the business in Europe. There was no business. He just wanted to run away from the debts he had here." Perfect. Everything was working exactly as I had expected. Catherine had trusted Edward. She had sacrificed her relationship with me for him. And now she was discovering he was not the man she thought he was. That night, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea and looked at the stars. Robert used to say stars were the souls of people who had lived a full life, watching over their families from heaven. If that were true, then he was up there watching his plan unfold perfectly. "Thank you, my love," I said to the sky. "Thank you for taking care of me even after your death." The next day, Mr. Reynolds called me early. "Mrs. Vance, I have some news. Your daughter just arrived in the country. She's at the airport alone." "Alone?" "Yes. Apparently Edward stayed in Europe. There are rumors they had a huge fight." "I see. Did you send the letter?" "I will send it today. She will receive it tomorrow." I hung up the phone and stood there in the kitchen feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. After so many weeks of silent planning, the moment for the first real move had finally arrived. Catherine was about to discover that her mother was not the helpless victim she believed. Catherine arrived at her apartment on Tuesday night. I knew because Audrey, who seemed to have informants all over the neighborhood, came to tell me the next day. "Eleanor, your daughter, returned last night. I saw her go in with a suitcase, but she looked terrible pale with dark circles under her eyes, as if she had cried the whole flight. Alone, completely alone. And something strange, Eleanor. When the doorman asked for her keys, she did not have them. She had to ask the concierge to let her in with the emergency copy." Interesting. Edward had the keys, which meant he had probably decided not to return. Or maybe Catherine had discovered something about him and had fled. In any case, my daughter was back, and very soon she would receive my little welcome gift. Mr. Reynolds called me that same afternoon, "Mrs. Vance, the letter was delivered an hour ago. The doorman confirmed your daughter received it personally." "Perfect. How much time did we give her?" 30 days to vacate the apartment according to legal standards. But Mrs. Vance, are you sure you want to do this? After all, she is your daughter. Mr. Reynolds? My daughter kicked me out of my own house with a 2-minute phone call. She sold my things without asking. She treated me like trash. Now she is going to learn that actions have consequences. I understand. I just wanted to make sure you had considered all the implications. I considered them, Mr. Reynolds, all of them. That night, I could not sleep. I stayed awake imagining Catherine's face when she read the letter. The initial confusion, then the disbelief, then the panic. She would probably think it was a mistake that someone was trying to trick her, but when she called to verify, she would discover everything was completely legal. The next day, as if waiting for my call, the phone rang at 8 sharp in the morning. It was Catherine, and her voice sounded desperate. Mom. Mom. I need to talk to you urgently. Good morning, dear. How was Europe? Mom, I do not have time for this now. I received a very strange letter yesterday. It says I have to vacate my apartment in 30 days. It must be a mistake, right? Do you know anything about this? An eviction notice. How strange. From whom? From a company I have never heard of. It is called... Wait, let me find the letter. Vance Global Investments, LLC. Do you know that company? Robert had used his own name for the company. How poetic. No, dear, I have never heard that name. Are you sure the letter is legitimate? That is what I want to find out. Mom, I need you to help me. I do not know what to do. Edward left me in Europe. He ran off with another woman, and now I come back to this. I do not understand what is happening. There was the confirmation. Edward had abandoned her. Probably when the money ran out or when he realized the legal problems at home were more serious than he thought. Poor Catherine. She had sacrificed her family for a worthless man. I'm so sorry, honey. Where are you now? I am at the apartment, but I do not know for how long. Mom, can I come see you? I need to talk to someone. I do not have anyone anymore. The irony was perfect. Now that she was left without the man for whom she had abandoned me, she remembered she had a mother. Sure, honey, come whenever you want. I am heading there. I hung up the phone and looked at myself in the mirror. I had to be perfect for this performance. I put on my most conservative gray dress, tied my hair in a simple bun, and practiced my expression of a worried but resigned mother. When Catherine arrived, she would see exactly what she expected to see: a poor and vulnerable widow who had been abandoned by her own daughter. Catherine arrived an hour later. When I opened the door, I was surprised by how bad she looked. She had lost weight, had deep circles under her eyes, and her expensive clothes looked wrinkled and neglected. Her eyes were red from crying so much. Mom, she said, and for a moment I thought she was going to hug me, but she stopped, as if suddenly remembering how things had ended between us. Come in, dear. Do you want some coffee? Yes, please. We sat in the kitchen, at the same table where I had read Robert's documents weeks ago. Catherine looked small in that chair, lost exactly like when she was a child, and came to tell me her problems at school. Mom, I am sorry for the way I left. I know I did not treat you well. It is in the past, dear. No, it is not. I treated you badly. I said horrible things, and now... Her voice cracked. Now I do not have anyone. What happened with Edward? He left me for a 25-year-old hotel maid in Paris. It turns out there never was a business in Europe. It was all a lie. He just wanted to run away from the debts he had here and use the money from the sale of your house to finance his adventure. All the debts. Yes, Mom. So many debts. It seems he had been taking out loans for years, using the apartment where we lived as collateral. But now I discover he was not the owner of the apartment. How is that possible? Here was my chance. I do not know, dear. Property matters are very complicated. The problem is now the banks are chasing me for his debts. They say since we were married, I am also responsible. And on top of all this eviction notice. Mom, I do not know what to do. I have no money. I have no job. I have nowhere to live. She started crying, real tears of genuine desperation. And for a moment, my mother's heart softened. I wanted to hug her comfort, tell her everything would be okay. But then I remembered the coldness in her voice when she called me from the doctor's office, the ease with which she had discarded me, the way she had spoken to me as if I were a burden. "Did you talk to a lawyer about the letter?" "I do not have money for a lawyer, Mom. We spent all the money in Europe. Edward took whatever little was left when he ran off with that woman. So what are you going to do?" "I do not know. I thought maybe I could stay with you for a while, just until I find a job and get a small place to live." There was the question I had waited for. After kicking me out of my own house, after selling my things, after treating me like trash. Now she wanted me to rescue her. She wanted the poor widow she had created to save her from the consequences of her own actions. "Of course, dear. This will always be your house." Catherine looked at me with surprise, as if she had not expected it to be so easy. "Really, Mom, after everything that happened? You are my daughter, Catherine. That is never going to change." She stood up, and this time she hugged me. It was a desperate hug from someone who is drowning and clinging to the only thing she can find. I hugged her back, too, but not with the unconditional love from before. Now there was calculation in my hug. Strategy. "Thank you, Mom. I promise you I will find a job soon. I will not be a burden. Do not worry about that now. Rest, recover, and then we will see what your options are." Catherine went out that afternoon to pick up some things from her apartment. I stayed in the kitchen thinking about how easy it had been. She had come to me exactly as I had planned. Broken, desperate, with no options, and best of all, she suspected nothing. To her, I was still the poor and abandoned mother who needed her compassion. But this was only the first part of my plan. Having her live with me would give me the perfect opportunity for the next phase. I was going to let her settle in, feel safe, and believe she had found a refuge in my house. And then when she least expected it, I was going to teach her the difference between being poor by choice and being poor by consequence. That night, I called Mr. Reynolds. "Mr. Reynolds, I need you to do one more thing for me. Tell me, Mrs. Vance, I want you to investigate Edward's debts. I want to know exactly how much he owes to whom and what legal options I have to separate them from my daughter. That will take time, but it is viable." "Perfect. And Mr. Reynolds, I want you to keep this in absolute secret. No one can know I am behind this investigation." "Of course, Mrs. Vance. Can I ask what your final plan is? My plan." "Mr. Reynolds is very simple. I am going to save my daughter, but first she has to understand what it really means to hit rock bottom." When I hung up, I poured myself a glass of the wine Robert had saved for special occasions. It had been a long time since I had a special occasion like this. The game had begun, and for the first time in months, I held all the good cards in my hand. Catherine moved into my house the next day. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a cardboard box, all that remained of her previous life. I watched her unpack in her old room, the same one she had slept in during her teenage years, and I could see the humiliation in every one of her movements. She had gone from living in a luxury condo to taking refuge in her childhood bedroom. "Mom, I found this in the apartment," she said, showing me a manila envelope. It was among Edward's things. It has your name on it. It was another one of Robert's envelopes. My heart raced, but I kept my composure. My name. How strange. "Yes, look." She showed me the envelope. Indeed, it had my name written in Robert's handwriting. But this envelope was different from the one I had found in my dresser. This one was smaller, newer. "Maybe Edward found it among Dad's things when he died and forgot to give it to you," Catherine said. "It is possible. Can I see?" I opened the envelope in her presence. Inside was a short letter and a small key. The letter said Eleanor. If you are reading this after having received the main envelope, it means our daughter is going through a difficult time. This key opens a safety deposit box at the central branch of the bank downtown. The number is 247. There is something there that can assist you in helping her, but use it wisely. With eternal love, Robert. Catherine read the letter over my shoulder. A safety deposit box. Dad had a safety deposit box. I had no idea. Neither did I. I lied. Your father never told me. Do you think we should go see what is inside? I do not know, dear. Maybe it is better to leave things as they are. But Mom, maybe there is something important there. Documents or I do not know, maybe something valuable that can help us. The desperation in her voice was palpable. Catherine was clinging to any possibility of finding a way out of her situation, and I was going to let her cling a little longer before showing her the full reality. Okay, I said after a calculated pause. We can go tomorrow. That night, Catherine and I had dinner together for the first time in months. She had cooked, trying to be helpful, but the food tasted of guilt and desperation. She told me more details about what had happened in Europe, and every story was worse than the last. Edward lied about everything, Mom, not just about the business, but also about the debts. I thought he only owed a little money, but it turns out he owes more than $100,000. And the worst part is he used my name for some of the loans without my knowledge. How is that possible? He forged my signature. When I married him, I gave him some documents to handle the banks for our joint account. I never thought he would use them for this. Do you have any way to prove you did not know? I do not know. Everything is so complicated. The banks say that since we were married, I am responsible for all his debts anyway, and the divorce. I do not even know where Edward is now. He simply disappeared. His phone is disconnected. He does not answer emails. Nothing. It is like he vanished. Perfect. Edward had fled like the rat he always was, leaving Catherine to face the consequences of his actions alone. In a way, he had done me a favor. Now my daughter was experiencing exactly what I had felt when she abandoned me. Betrayal by someone she had trusted completely. I am so sorry, dear. I did not know things were that bad. Neither did I, Mom. I thought Edward loved me, that we were going to build something together, but it turns out I was just an easy way for him to get money and documents. Catherine started crying again. How could I be so stupid? How did I not realize who he really was? It was tempting to tell her that I had seen the signs from the beginning, that I had tried to warn her that Edward never seemed trustworthy, but that would have broken my facade of a supportive and vulnerable mother. Love can be blinding sometimes, dear. Do not blame yourself. But Mom, I did not just ruin my life. I ruined yours too. I treated you horribly. I took your house, your truck, your things and all to give it to a man who abandoned me at the first opportunity. Now we are two poor women trying to survive because of my fault. It is in the past, Catherine. We will be fine. No, it is not. Now we are both in trouble because of my mistakes. You lost everything Dad left you, and I lost my marriage and my future. We are two poor women trying to survive. If she only knew, I thought that at this precise moment I had more money than she could possibly imagine, that I was the owner of the building where she lived, that I could solve all her problems with a single call. But it was not time yet. The next day, we went to the bank. Catherine was nervous, hopeful. I maintained my act as a confused widow who did not understand much about finances. The bank employee took us to the safety deposit boxes, verified my identity, and opened box number 247. Inside were jewels, many jewels rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings. I recognized some pieces as heirlooms from Robert's family. Others were completely new to me. There was also a letter explaining the origin of each piece and its approximate value. Catherine gasped. Mom, this must be worth a fortune. You think? Yes. Look at this emerald on this pearl necklace. Dad kept a treasure here. According to Robert's letter, the jewelry was worth approximately $200,000. It was a significant amount, but it was nothing compared to the rest of my assets. It was like finding some coins under the sofa when you have $1 million in the bank. What do we do with this, Mom? I do not know, dear. They are family memories. But Mom, we could sell some of the pieces. With this money, you could get your beach house back, and I could pay some of Edward's debts. There it was again. Even when she found something valuable, Catherine's first reaction was to think about how to use it to solve the problems Edward had created. She still had not learned anything. Are you sure you want to use your father's inheritance to pay Edward's debts? What other choice do I have, Mom? If I do not pay something soon, the banks will confiscate everything I have. And technically, I own nothing. Everything was in Edward's name. Think carefully, dear. After you sell these jewels, you will not be able to get them back. I know, but what else can I do? I cannot get a job with all these pending legal matters. No employer will want to hire someone with so many legal problems. We took the jewels home. Catherine spread them on the kitchen table and examined them one by one, calculating which ones she could sell and which ones she could keep. It was painful to see her reduce decades of family history to numbers on a spreadsheet. Mom, I think I can get $180,000 for the jewelry, she said one afternoon, counting bills on the kitchen table. It is less than I expected, but it is enough to pay the most urgent debts. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice. If I do not pay something soon, they will confiscate everything. Even this house could be at risk if they prove I have any legal connection to the properties. How ironic the situation was. Catherine was worried about losing a house that I owned, paying the debts of a man who had abandoned her with money from jewels that had belonged to the same man who had created the fortune that could save her. And how are you going to decide which debts to pay first? I spoke to a free financial advisor at the bank. She told me to prioritize debts that have real collateral, because those are the ones that can affect properties or lead to immediate foreclosure. Catherine had matured so much in these few weeks. The woman who had sold my things without consulting me was now carefully researching every financial decision. Suffering had made her more responsible, but also more fragile. That night, while she was organizing the debt documents on the table, I received a call from Mr. Reynolds. Mrs. Vance, I have important news. We managed to locate Edward. Where is he? In Paris, exactly as your daughter suspected. But here is the interesting part. He is trying to get French residency through a fake marriage with that young woman your daughter mentioned. A fake marriage? Yes. Apparently the girl needs papers, and he needs a way to stay in Europe without being deported. But most importantly, we found evidence that he deliberately falsified your daughter's documents with the intention of fleeing the country. That means Catherine can get out of the debts. With this evidence, yes, we can prove fraud and duress. Your daughter will not have to pay anything for what Edward did behind her back. It was perfect. I had a way to save Catherine from all her debts legally, without her suspecting that I had the money to do so. Mr. Reynolds, I want you to start the legal process immediately. Do not tell my daughter anything yet. I want the process to be completely finalized before I tell her. I do not want to give her false hopes. Understood. That will take about 3 weeks, maybe a month. Perfect. When I hung up, Catherine looked at me curiously. Who was it, Mom? A lady who was asking for Mrs. Audrey, our neighbor on the corner. She had the wrong number. Lying had become easy. Every passing day, I felt more comfortable with this double life I was leading. On one hand, I was the poor and abandoned mother Catherine believed I was. On the other, I was a wealthy woman quietly orchestrating the salvation and education of my daughter. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Catherine struggle with decisions she never had to make. How to stretch money for food, how to negotiate with creditors, how to look for a job when her credit history is ruined. It was a cruel education, but necessary. Mom, I went to 3 job interviews today, she told me one night, coming home with swollen feet and a tired face. 2 of them told me they cannot hire me because of the pending legal problems. The third offered me a part-time job cleaning offices at night. Are you going to take it? I have no choice. It pays very little, but it is better than nothing. And I can work at night so I can keep looking for something better during the day. Seeing my daughter, who had lived a comfortable life for more than 40 years preparing to clean offices at night, broke my heart. But it also filled me with pride. She was finally facing reality without expecting someone else to solve her problems. Are you sure you can handle so much physical work? I will have to learn. I cannot keep being a burden to you, Mom. This is your house, Catherine. No, Mom. This is your house, and I am here because of your generosity, but I am not going to take advantage of it forever." One night, while Catherine was on her first cleaning shift, Audrey came to visit me. She sat in the kitchen with me drinking tea and looking at the family photos on the walls. "Eleanor, I have to ask you something. Did you know Catherine was going to come back in these conditions?" "What do you mean?" "Well, when she left, she looked so sure of herself, so arrogant. She talked about the great life she was going to have in Europe, about how successful Edward was, and now she is back completely broke, working a cleaning job, living with you again. Life takes many turns, Audrey. Yes, but there is something else. I have watched Catherine these days, and she looks different. Not just sad, but humble, as if she learned something important. Audrey was always very perceptive. What do you think she learned? I think she learned the value of things she took for granted, like having a mother who loves her unconditionally. Maybe. Audrey, can I tell you something? When Catherine left and treated you so badly, many of us thought you would never forgive her. But here you are taking care of her again, giving her a home when she has nowhere to go. She is my daughter, Audrey. Yes, but not all mothers would do what you are doing, especially after being treated the way you were treated. If Audrey knew the whole truth, that I had the power to solve all of Catherine's problems, but was choosing to let her suffer a little more so she would learn the full lesson. Do you think I am doing the right thing? I think you are doing what a good mother would do, but I also think Catherine needs to fully understand what she lost when she abandoned you. What do you mean? I think she needs to value you not just as the mother who rescues her when she is in trouble, but as the strong woman who built a stable life for 45 years. She needs to respect you, not just need you. Audrey had hit the nail on the head. That was exactly the point of my whole plan. I did not want Catherine to come back to me out of desperation. I wanted her to come back out of genuine respect and mature love. And how do you think that can happen? I think it is already happening. I have seen her these last few days, Eleanor. The way she talks to you now is completely different. She is no longer the daughter who gives you orders or treats you like a burden. Now she is an adult woman who is genuinely grateful to have a mother like you. That night when Catherine returned from work, I saw her arrive tired but with a new dignity. She had earned those few dollars with her own effort, and that meant something to her. "How was your first day?" "Difficult, but not as bad as I thought." The other ladies who worked there helped me a lot. One of them, Mrs. Higgins, taught me tricks to clean more efficiently. Mrs. Higgins. Yes, she is 60 years old and has been cleaning offices for 20 years. She told me she started after her husband left her with 3 small children. She says it is not the job she dreamed of, but it gave her independence and dignity. She seems like a wise woman. She is. And she made me understand something important. It is not about the money you have, but how you use it and how you relate to it. Catherine sat with me on the sofa. "Mom, I want you to know I have made a decision. I am going to keep living here with you, but not as a daughter who returned to her parents' house. I want to stay here as an adult woman who chooses to share her life with her mother. What is the difference? The difference is I am going to pay my share of expenses. I am going to contribute to the maintenance of the house, and I am going to treat this relationship like a partnership between 2 independent women who love and respect each other. Catherine, you do not have to do that. Yes, I have to do it. Mom, I need our relationship to be different from what it was before. Before I was a daughter who took her mother's love and care for granted. Now I want to be an adult woman who values and cares for the most important relationship of her life. And your job. I am going to keep working, but not necessarily cleaning offices forever. I want to go back to school. I want to prepare myself to do something more meaningful with my life. But I want to do it step by step, earning every opportunity. Do you have any idea what you want to study? Yes, I want to study social work. These last few weeks have taught me how many people are going through difficult situations without having anyone to support them. I want to use the resources we have to help other women who are going through what I went through. It was perfect. Catherine had not only learned to value what she had, but she had found a way to use her experience for something constructive. And Edward. Mr. Reynolds told me he was arrested in France for the fraudulent marriage. He will be deported soon, but honestly, Mom, I do not care anymore. That part of my life is over. Do you not feel any resentment? No. Edward did me a favor, without even knowing it. If he had not abandoned and betrayed me, I would have never hit rock bottom. And if I had never hit rock bottom, I would have never learned to truly value what I have. That night, for the first time in months, I went to bed completely at peace. My plan had worked perfectly. Catherine had not only learned the lessons she needed to learn, but she had emerged from the experience as a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate person. Robert would have been so proud. 6 months later, our life had found a new balance neither of us could have imagined before. Catherine finished her social work studies with excellent grades, and I decided to use some of my resources to establish a foundation to help women in situations of domestic violence and financial abandonment. Mom, the letter from the university arrived, Catherine said one morning, coming into the kitchen with an envelope in her hands. I was accepted into the master's program. I start next semester. But Mom, I want you to know I will pay for it with my own savings. I have been saving money from my job in the city. The salary was not high, but she had learned to live on the essentials and value every dollar she earned. Are you sure? We can easily pay for the master's. I know, but I need to do it on my own. It is part of who I am now. Audrey came to visit us that afternoon as she had done every Friday for the last few months. She had become a confidant for both of us, watching our transformation with fascination. Eleanor. I have to confess something, she said, pouring herself a second cup of tea. At first I thought you were very cruel to Catherine. And what do you think now? Now I think you were the wisest mother I have ever known. Look at your daughter. Really look at her. It was true. The Catherine, who was in the living room studying for her exams, was completely different from the one who had gone to Europe months ago. This Catherine had a serenity that came from within, a confidence based on her own achievements, not on material possessions. Did you know I saw Catherine at the supermarket yesterday, buying vegetables for a family she is helping through her job? She had not told me. And when I asked her why she was using her own money instead of the government budget, she told me some things cannot be measured in official budgets. That night, Catherine and I had dinner on the porch, something that had become a tradition. It was our time to talk about the day, plan the future, and simply enjoy each other's company. Mom, I received a very strange letter today, she said, cutting her salad. From whom? From Edward. My muscles tensed. Edward. He wrote to you. From where? From prison in France. Apparently, he was sentenced to 2 years for marriage fraud. In the letter, he says he regrets everything he did and wants to ask for my forgiveness. And how do you feel about it? Honestly, I feel nothing. No anger, no sadness, no desire for revenge. It is like that part of my life happened decades ago, not months ago. Are you going to answer? No. Not because I hate him, but because there is nothing to say. That Catherine, who married him, no longer exists. This Catherine has nothing to talk about with him. I was impressed by the maturity in her voice. The woman sitting across from me had developed an inner strength that came from hitting rock bottom and getting up on her own. Do you know what this whole experience taught me, Mom? What? That true love is not what tells you what you want to hear. True love is what teaches you what you need to learn even when it hurts. It is a difficult lesson to learn, but it is a necessary one. Edward told me what I wanted to hear. He made me feel special. He convinced me I deserved a life of luxury without effort. You taught me that true wealth comes from hard work, respect, and genuine relationships. That night, after Catherine went to her room to study, I sat on the porch alone, looking at the stars and thinking about Robert. I had promised him I would take care of our daughter, and finally I felt I had fulfilled that promise in the right way. I had not taken care of her by giving her money when she needed it. I had taken care of her by teaching her to take care of herself. I had not saved her by solving her problems. I had saved her by allowing her to learn to solve them on her own. The next day was Sunday, and we had planned to visit the beach house together for the first time since I had recovered it. Catherine had not wanted to go before saying she needed time to process everything that had happened. "Are you ready?" I asked her as we got into the truck. "I think so." The trip was silent but comfortable. When we arrived, Catherine stood for a moment in the truck looking at the house where we had passed so many summers as a family. "It looks exactly the same," she said finally. "Some things do not change, but others do. I am not the same person who sold this house." We went in together. The house was clean and tidy, exactly how Robert and I had kept it for years. Catherine walked through every room, touching the furniture and looking at the family photos hanging on the walls. "Mom, I want to apologize." "You already apologized, dear." "No, I want to apologize specifically for this house, not just for selling it, but for reducing all our family memories to a business transaction. You are forgiven." This house represents 40 years of family summers, of birthdays, of Christmases. Dad built that porch with his own hands. You planted that garden, I learned to swim on that beach, and I transformed all that into money to finance the adventure of a worthless man. She sat on the sofa where Robert used to read on Sunday mornings. "Do you know what hurts me the most?" "What?" "That when I sold it, I felt nothing. It was just another property. Now being here again, I can feel Dad in every corner. I can hear his laugh, smell his breakfast, see his reading glasses on the table. He is here, Catherine. He has always been here. I know. And I also know he is proud of how you handled all this. We passed the whole day at the house, cooking together, cleaning and fixing small details. It was like a ritual of reconnection, not just with the place, but with the values that place represented. When the sun began to set, we sat on the porch Robert had built, watching the ocean. "Mom, I have a proposal." "What is it?" "I want us to transform this house into a temporary shelter for women who are leaving situations of domestic violence, a place where they can stay while they rebuild their lives." It was the perfect proposal. Robert would have loved the idea that his beach house served to help other families. "I think it is a beautiful idea, dear. We can use some of the foundation's resources to maintain it, and I can supervise the program through my job. Are you sure you want to transform our family sanctuary into this, Mom? The best sanctuaries are the ones that are shared. Dad always said, a house is not truly a home until it opens its doors to other people who need love." He was right. Robert had always been generous with our house, inviting relatives, friends, and neighbors who needed a place to stay. We returned home that night with a new project and a completely renewed relationship. We were no longer mother and daughter united by obligation or necessity. We were two women who had consciously chosen to build a life together based on love, respect, and a common purpose. That night, before falling asleep, I spoke to Robert in silence. We made it, my love. Our daughter finally understood what really matters. And for the first time since his death, I felt he answered me. "I always knew you would make it. You two are stronger than you think." Justice had arrived not as revenge, but as education, not as punishment, but as transformation. And in the end, the two of us had gained something much more valuable than money. We had gained an authentic relationship built on a solid foundation that no future crisis could destroy. Now, if you like this story, click on this next video appearing on the screen, because in it, there is a story of betrayal and revolt like you have never seen before.